Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. I'm back today with, I guess I just have to call it part two of Modal Offset. I did a video yesterday about it. I need to talk a little bit more about it. I have to say that yesterday when I did that sort of Harry Styles inspired rethinking of how to integrate melody and chord progressions, I don't think I'd fully sort of come to terms with it. I thought about it all day after doing the video, woke up this morning, here. So first things first, I think the technique of modal offset, which is essentially taking a melody and moving it to a different place in the scale while the chords stay the same, works best with restricted modes. In other words, things like pentatonic scales and things like that. And that's kind of what I did yesterday. If you look at it, I said I'm using the Dorian mode. Really, we could probably have called it the minor pentatonic. And the truth is, a lot of melodies are like that. I wrote another melody today, just trying this out. Take a look at this little melody that I wrote. I would call this an E minor blues melody. I mean, it's certainly nothing to write home about. I'm using a pentatonic scale in the right hand, and I put those left hand fifths in just to sort of orient your ear, it's a trick, towards the E minor center. Now, what I've done is rethink that E minor pentatonic as part of the notes of a C scale. All those notes are in the C scale. They're all in the G scale. They're all in the C scale. I could have used either one. Instead, I decided C scale. This is the chord progression that I'm going to see if it works. Of course, you recognize that as just the axis chords. So what's going to happen? This is the idea of modal offset. So here's the chord progression in C and that original melody. It's amazing, it works. You get some interesting results, and I think the reason it worked so well in the video yesterday and with the Harry Styles concept in general is that the melody has strength and direction. The chords also have strength and direction, and they interact in fascinating ways. Sometimes a melodic tone sounds like it's heading right for that note. It gets there, but it turns out to be the major seventh of the F chord. So you wind up on a strong melodic tone, which is a dissonance, or at least an extension to the chord. It's a way of validating extensions to a chord and making them sound great. Well, the idea of the modal offset means I could theoretically take that melody and move it to a different place within the scale, and so I did. Now, this isn't going to really sound very much different. The same chord progression. I took the melody, and instead of starting on E, I moved it up, and I started it on A. And of course, this is going to give us an A blues scale, and it's basically the pentatonic major scale in C. We know this is going to work. There are locations in the scale where something like that won't work, where the exact chromatic transposition of the melody will give you altered tones, tones that aren't originally in the scale, or will give you kind of strange configurations. Well, I was fascinated by that, and so I thought to myself, I wonder if it works in reverse. I wonder if I can take a melody, hold it in place, and shift the chord pattern to different scale degrees underneath it. So I tested it, of course. Here we go. So here's my piece. The chord progression, you can see, goes C, G, A minor, F. Sound familiar? Little melody on the top. happy children cycling through the neighborhood. So what if I take that same pattern, which is down a fourth, up a step, down a third, and move it to a different location in the C pantheon of chords, in the C chord cycle? And there are places where it works. The melody stays the same in this case, and I took everything and moved it down to the relative minor. So now the chord progression is A minor, E minor, F major, D minor. Sounds cool. I've modally shifted the chord progression. Modal shifting of chord progressions is a thing. Yay! I'm so excited by this idea. Well, of course, I'm experimenting some more. So this morning I was like, well, what if I try it a little bit slower? I want to try different chord progressions. So here's a different chord progression, a different melody. This chord progression basically rolls in fourths. D minor, down a fourth to A. It looks like up a fifth there, to A minor, and then C major to G major. Diatonic chords in the key of C. 2, 6, 1, 5. Not an uncommon chord progression in certain styles of music. A little melody over the top. What if I take that chord progression and move it to a different place in the scale, in the C scale? So instead of starting on D and going down a fourth, I started on G. So it's the same relationships. G, down a fourth to D minor, F major, down a fourth to C major. So it's really a very, very different orientation. The chord qualities are major and minor in different places, and yet the melody will be exactly the same notes. And again, we get that effect, and it's really, I think, the single biggest reason to try doing this, of having strong melodic contours, which are familiar and stable, and that generate dissonant tones to the chord progression. This A against the G chord is a fairly strong sensation. And yet it really does work. Well, I thought, what if I began on a different location? I'm going to take that same melody, and now my chord progression is this: A minor, E minor, down a step, G, D minor. This one is fun. I love it. I allowed myself, for the last example, a little freedom to alter one of the chord qualities. I said, I'm going to begin on C. C, down a fourth to G, but it's G minor. And then I realized, hey, I'm in the key of F here. That was 5 down to 2. So B flat, again, down a step. It's like we done earlier, down to F. So now I essentially have the same chord progression that I just played you earlier, 5, 2, 4, 1, in the key of F, but I didn't move the melody. And we're going to get some interesting effects here, how strong these notes sound against it. And really, it sounds terrific. It's going to be a kind of a surprising sound to the ear. It's my favorite one. I never would have gotten to that if I hadn't allowed myself to experiment in the ways that, well, I just showed you. I think as composers and as players, we should be a little we should be investigating. I don't know if it's scientific exactly, but it certainly has an element of speculation. I wonder what will happen if, and then testing. I mean, to some degree, that's what scientists do, but we're artists and we have to sort the stuff after we've done it, discard the things we don't like and keep the things we do. Eventually, you'll wind up with a bag of stuff which is just really exactly yours. I would never have come to that last thing if I hadn't followed the kind of bumpy pathway that I followed to get there. Well, modal offset is a way to test an idea. What if? What if? I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe. Ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. See you guys next time.